Thank you so much for the introduction. So happy to be here. I'm Janani, and that's Alyssa, and we co-founded the Bay Area Montessori Playgroup. And thank you so much for being here on a weekday evening. I know it's not easy. If you have children, it's not the easiest thing to do. So we're absolutely honored to have your presence here with us. We wanted to dive in and ask you a question. So that's Nicola, who's here. But when you think of Montessori, what are a few words that come to your mind immediately? So you can share whatever comes to your mind in the chat below, and we can start from there. Or you can just like say it too, whichever works.
Follow the child. That's what
Follow the child. Yep. Yeah. Beautiful. Yep. Alyssa, do you want to go? Angela, you can say too, because you have children who are 4 and 2.
Sure I think of like independence, autonomy, like holistic life. But yeah.
That's great. Yeah. All right. So let's first bust some myths right away. Montessori is more than a preschool curriculum. It's not right brain training or something only for children under 6. Montessori is for you, for me, and your children's grandparents. It's actually a perspective on the human development from birth through adulthood. It's an aid to life, which is the title of our talk today. It is a mindset. And today we'll explore 3 core principles that make this approach truly transformational. So Janani will start with the first principle.
Okay, so when you look at the child in front of you, what do you think they really need to thrive? Do they need wooden toys? Do they need like curated materials? What do they really need? So in Montessori, when we look at children, we look at holistic health, and holistic health is the foundation for learning and growth, and everything begins here. And we look at it as this. This starts with trust in themselves and trust in the world. So when we say trust in oneself, what we mean is when children believe they can do something, when they try and with effort, and when this is something that they have learned again and again with experience, they begin to trust themselves. And the other piece is trust in the world, which is very important, often overlooked. This is when children believe that the world is a place in which they can have their needs met. But trust isn't something that we can just instill through words. Just us saying, I know you can do it, I believe in you, that's just not enough. Children need more than that. And so it develops through consistent experiences of being respected, of being seen, of being felt, understood, having their needs met enough times, not always, but enough times, and finding that the world, their world, at least in early childhood, that the world is largely predictable and responsive. So we wanted to break down trust a little more because this is the core that we carry with us through life. So trust really begins at birth, in infancy, at the hour of birth, pretty much, through something very, very simple, which is what we call responsive caregiving. So when we respond to a child crying, we pick them up, we hold them, we're sending a powerful message. We're telling this child, you matter. And as this child grows and as they enter toddlerhood, this trust continues to grow through the environment that we create. And a safe, inviting space is what tells this child, this world is worthy of your exploration, of your curiosity. So all of these together help this child build that trust in self and trust in the world. They are like 2 sides of the same coin. They need both of this as they go into the world, as they go into childhood, adolescence, and adulthood. And another factor that helps with building trust is repeated experiences. So when I earlier said this, it's not about meeting their needs every single time, because that's just not possible, not realistic, and also in a way that's not healthy. We want children to have their needs met sometimes, not all the times, and life naturally creates these scenarios for us. We're busy doing something, we cannot immediately attend to them, and so life creates these scenarios, and it's important for children to experience these scenarios because they know that they are still seen, they are understood, and that their needs will be met. And that is good enough. And this leads to a relaxed, open nervous system, which is ready to engage and connect with the world. Another aspect is our response to exploration. And I think there's a huge difference when you're a first-time parent and then you're a second or third-time parent, this whole how we respond to situations. Because our initial instinct for our children is always protect them. But our reactions really shape whether children trust this world or not. So we wanted to present like a scenario. There are two scenarios. One scenario is your child is exploring ahead of you in the woods. Your child stumbles and falls. So you go and check if she's okay. You dust off the dirt together and then continue exploring together. So in this scenario, you still acknowledge the fall, but then you move on. You move on and you get on with what you were doing. And your child carries away this message that, okay, you are capable and the world is still safe to explore. So you keep doing what you're doing. And then we have another scenario where you hold your child's hand tightly on the same path. And when you notice that the terrain is uneven, there's a lot to navigate, you quickly pick her up for safety. And then she's reaching for the bushes and you pull her hand. You haven't really said anything, but then they've already communicated that the world is not safe and you cannot handle it. So in that interaction, we're communicating both the trust in self and the trust in the world are starting to falter. So another factor that we really need to build trust is supporting that relaxed nervous system, which is pretty much everything, because this builds trust and also builds resilience. We do this through compassionate, cooperative parenting that meets children exactly where they are. It's not about doing everything for them. It's not about completely leaving them to figure things out. In Montessori, we call this collaborating. And in neuroscience, we call this scaffolding. And this is helping children build new skills at their own pace as much as they can, and then we compensate for the rest. So we validate their emotions when they're overwhelmed. We choose to work with them rather than do things for them. And then through all of this, the nervous system starts to become open, calm, relaxed, and it feels safe. And only when this is a felt experience, children are able to open up and interact with the world. So those are the core factors that we really need to build trust in self and trust in the world.
All right. So our second principle is fostering independence. I think this is what Montessori is known for. Earlier you mentioned independence and autonomy as part of what you know about Montessori. And so let's dive into that. You've likely heard your toddler insist, me do it. They really do want to try and do things on their own. Dr. Montessori observed that children have that natural drive toward independence and autonomy. And this drive isn't random. It's a biological need. And that's why they're so insistent. Our toddlers are working to build themselves as capable human beings. And when we support that drive, we honor their developmental journey. So yes, independence is incredibly important. It helps children become empowered and establish a sense of dignity and self-worth and understand their own abilities, their limitations, and overall it builds this genuine self-confidence and trust in themselves that is coming from within. It is intrinsic. It's not coming from, external praise and rewards and all these things that we, try to do to instill that confidence, but actually comes from within. In Montessori, we recognize 3 dimensions of independence, and each build upon the others. We have functional independence, intellectual independence, and the last one is moral and economic independence. So let's look at each one of these. Functional independence, this is for our youngest children. This is what we know most, right? This simple, practical life skills like dressing themselves, learning to pull up pants, opening water bottles, transferring beans, watering plants, and making simple snacks. This functional independence solidifies their trust in their own capabilities and help them feel like contributing members of their family and community at a very young age. And in most cases, Montessori is known for this dimension of independence, right? But I think it's so interesting to know about the other dimensions. So let's move on to the next one. Intellectual independence. This emerges in our elementary age children who can absorb the world through intellect and imagination. And when we say imagination, we think fairies and fantasy, which of course they love, but ask your child to imagine an asteroid striking the Earth 66 million years ago. Dust clouds everywhere, volcanoes erupting, dinosaurs perishing. This is imagination too. And this is the age for intellectual exploration, discovering how humans created money, exploring nations, whether nations are serving humanity well. And the way we support it is that rather than telling just facts, we present them with what humans have figured out, and we ask, what do you think? Children this age love these kind of conversations, and we make them think about all these things. We present problems and analyze scenarios together and problem solve together. So this is the age for exactly that. And the next one is moral and economic independence. This is in adolescence. Our young people beginning to figure out who they are. We call this a second birth because they're no longer children, but emerging adults. This is their time to explore who they hope to become in the world. And unlike infants who explore and toddlers who explore from curiosity, adolescents are driven by a desire to contribute and change the world. They need our support and not babying, obviously, because otherwise they'll just rebel and push us away, but they do need our support. And as they test their ideas, as they earn money and question morality. And we don't expect this transformation to be complete at age 18. And then we, simply send them away. We keep our doors open, creating a secure base from which they can explore the world and return to us whenever they need it. But here is where I want to shift our perspective. Independence is not something children must earn or achieve. It's their natural birthright. And it becomes the foundation for everything else. So independence is not the destination, as we might think, when we have these young toddlers and we're trying to teach them how to do all these things by themselves. It's not the destination, it's the vehicle. So a question I have is, where do you hope your children's independence will take them? If you'd like to share, you can tell us. Any thoughts? Is someone writing in the chat? I hope it makes them live a fulfilling life as adults. Beautiful. Yes. All right, so in Montessori, the goal of independence is actually interdependence. As you can see in this chart by Mario Montessori, everything in our ecosystem is interconnected. Natural elements are all connected together, and we humans depend on the natural world to create and sustain our communities. We also rely on each other, right? As we organize and build our world through cooperation and mutual support. So what is interdependence? It's when we use our independence of action, of thought, of economics and morality, all those three dimensions that we talked about, to then become active, contributing members of society. We're not aiming to raise hyper-individualized, self-sufficient mini humans who only think of themselves. I think we already have a lot of that in our world. Instead, interdependence means knowing when to lean on your community to source support and when to let your community lean on you. So how does this look in practice? Look at the picture. Picture that child washing a window in a Montessori environment. Yes, they're building gross motor skills and fine motor skills and learning to care for their environment. But on a deeper level, this child is caring for a shared environment with 10 other children. So through this simple act that they want to do it repeatedly, they ultimately feel that they belong and that they're active agents in their community at a very, very young age, which is so beautiful. So everything we do in Montessori ultimately connects to this vision. It's not just about building individual skills, it's nurturing children toward joyful and secure interdependence where they can both contribute to and receive from the world around them. So to wrap up this section, a question you might want to think about is, how are you nurturing your child's independence today, and how could it support interdependence tomorrow? If anyone would like to share, or maybe Janani has an example from a classroom.
Yep. So my favorite example to share with parents whenever I speak to them is this idea where children help with something that we do every single day, which is table setting. Setting the table for dinner, right? And we do this in the Montessori community, and we start this with young children who come at like 15, 16 months. They're still like getting their bearings, they don't have balance, but we help them set the table for themselves. And we always start in the toddler community by having them set the table for themselves. So you bring your placemat, you bring your plate, you bring a fork or a spoon, your lunch, you transfer it. It's beautiful because they have done this for themselves. That's independence, and that's earned at 18 months, 2 years. But we move slowly from that to something more. Once children start entering what we call the Montessori primary, we ask them, okay, today, who would you like to set the table for? And they choose a friend, someone they want to sit with, and then they set the table for them. They arrange a flower, they come and keep it there. Here they are using their independence to do it for someone else. And now this child has this experience of doing this in the Montessori primary. And as the child enters elementary years, we ask this child, today, would you like to set the table for the community? And here we move from the child, whether the child has a good relationship with all the children in the community or not is not the point. Whether the child none of those things are the point. The point is to use your independence to do this for someone else, and you do it because that is what we do. And this is what is at the heart of everything we do in Montessori. It's using your independence to then lead to that connected, interdependent living. And so this is just something that we wanted to share with you. I want to move on to another core aspect of Montessori that keeps coming up a lot. We see it a lot on social media, disciplining, and positive discipline, and all kinds of discipline. It's all there. We want to talk about how we view this with the Montessori lens. So this is the third principle, and this brings together this independence and trust in a very practical framework. This is what we call freedom with limits, which ultimately leads to inner discipline. So in Montessori, freedom means the liberty to explore and develop within appropriate boundaries that ensure safety, respect for others, and for the environment. So this is the balance that creates security while allowing for growth. Now, why do limits matter? Limits matter because they are meant to make children feel safe and not feel like we are imposing our power on them. This is where it is contrary to traditional view of discipline, where it's very hierarchical, it's very authority driven. But in Montessori, it is not, we do not view it like that. We look at it as helping children feel safe and collaborating with them even when we are doing limit setting. So when we help children do the right thing, not because they're going to they fear us punishing them or withdrawing something or withholding something or we're rewarding something, not because of any of those things, but because that is the right thing to do. And this is very aspirational, truly, but when we see it in action with young children, you see that it's possible. Even once, I feel like the brain doesn't want to stop. Like, I remember my first experience where I saw this happen with children, where they did the right thing because it was the right thing to do. And then I just couldn't stop. You want to help every child reach that place where they do the right thing because it's the right thing to do. And they may not get it right every single time, and that's okay, because we can reason with them, we can talk with them, but the fact that they are going there, they are capable of being there, is really what this is all about. And so limit setting itself is very appropriate only for like the young children who are typically under 5, who are not yet capable of reasoning with us. So these children need those clear boundaries because they feel safe with those boundaries and they can thrive and make choices within those boundaries. But beyond a certain age, limit setting itself becomes limiting, and it keeps the control in our court. We don't want to keep the control in our court. We want to ask the child, what do you think about this? Do you think this is enough? Do you think this is what you want to do? And that is what we really view with the whole limit setting. We transfer it to the child. So we want them to make mistakes where it's possible to make mistakes, where it is okay to make mistakes. And we want them to see what happens when they make those mistakes. Let them learn from those mistakes. Let them rethink and recalibrate and come up with something else. And so if we're truly preparing fully functioning members of society, then our aim is to trust children to make those thoughtful choices and own those choices, not to turn and look at us for approval. We can and should have our children seek our guidance at 4 and 5, and even as they grow. But as they grow more and more, we want them to build what we call their own inner moral compass and use that to then recalibrate as they go through life.
So here's what we want you to remember. The human nest isn't like a bird's nest. Birds just push their young out when they're ready to fly. But our children need our presence, our trust, and our unwavering belief in their capabilities actually throughout life. And Montessori is about fostering that trust, independence, and joyful interdependence that supports children through every stage of growth, like you've seen in all these dimensions of independence and interdependence, and all the way into adulthood. So, back to where we started, when you think of Montessori now, what words come to mind? Has your perspective shifted in any way